We want to get in. We're on the last line of Memvav Mud Beis, 46b, the very last line. So this is how the Gemara goes in these kind of tangents and covers all kinds of topics. We're discussing Egla Rufa. Egla Rufa is a mystery murder for which the elders of the nearest town do a ritual of forgiveness, considering that they did not accompany this person and take care of him as he left town. So because we're talking about that, we talked about the value of accompanying guests, accompanying them on the way as they leave town, and the laws around that and the reward around that. And from there, the Gemara got to this episode of Elisha, just as he becomes inaugurated as the prophet. He comes to a city, blesses the waters of the city, leaves town, gets yelled at by children, gets jeered at. He turns, looks at them, curses them, bears come and attack 42 of them. That's the story. And we got there because the Gemara comments that all of this happened because the people did not accompany Elisha. That's the tangent we're going on. Yeah. So because we're talking about accompanying, and we're talking about the story of Elisha, now the Gemara comments on the story of Elisha in general, unrelated to the accompaniment. Till now we talked about his interaction with the kids, what they were saying, calling him Baldy, what he was saying, what he saw when he looked at them. Now we're getting to the story, to the rest of the story itself. So the last line there, it begins by opening with quoting the verse that the Gemara wishes to comment on. And the verse is, Vatetzena, and there came out, Shtei dubim min hayar. There's the last line of the page. Vatetzena, Shtei dubim min hayar. And two bears came out of the forest, and it tore apart from them, amongst these kids, 42 children. End quote from the Pasuk, which implies there was more than 42, but it only took 42. Gemara says, Rav and Shmuel were discussing this verse. Rav and Shmuel are the early generation of the Gemara scholars, and they are both study partners, and later in life they each ran their own yeshivas, so they had like two different schools of thought. So they're leading figures within the Gemara thinking and the Gemara writing.
It's not the same Shmuel that principles of derivation.
Shmuel, that's Yishmael.
Ishmael. Okay.
He lives maybe a century earlier.
Okay.
Rabbi Yishmael, maybe not a full century.
Okay. That's Rabbi.
Decades, certainly.
That's Rabbi.
And that's Rabbi, and that's with the Yud, Yishmael. Mishnayik, yeah. He's a generation that precedes Rabbi Yehuda for sure, maybe even precedes earlier than that.
Okay.
Could be even earlier. So Rav and Shmuel are discussing this verse, and Chad Amar, one says, Nes was a singular miracle that these bears arrived. The Chad Amar, and the other one of these two, Rav and Shmuel, says, Nes b'soichnes, a miracle within a miracle. What does this mean? Why one miracle or two miracles? So the Gemara explains. Manda Amar Nes, the one who says that there was a miracle, Yar Hava, there was a forest, but Dubim, bears, Loy Hava, were not there. So the miracle is the arrival of the bears. And Manda Amar, that's the Memdalek stands for, Manda Amar, the one who says, Nes Besoich Nes, that it was a miracle within a miracle, Loy Yar Hava, there was no forest, V'loy Dubim Hava, and there was no bears. So it's a double miracle that there arrived a forest and there arrived a bear. Okay? So the Gemara asks, V'lehevi Dubim, let there be bears, V'lehevi Yar, let there not be any forest. Why make a miracle that a forest should appear? The point is to punish these kids. The point is to have bears attack them. Then what do you need the mention of forest? According to the opinion that says the forest was always there. Okay, so the forest was always there, and the verse just happens to be describing where the bears came from, these miraculous bears. But according to the opinion that says there was no forest, and the presence of a forest in itself is a miracle, what's the point of that miracle? We have a rule that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't
look natural.
Sorry?
For things to look natural.
Right. You're sitting there, and all of a sudden a forest pops out. It's not very natural.
Right.
But there is some truth to that. We'll see in a second. But the rule is like misrachish nisil vatala. Hashem doesn't do a miracle that's unnecessary. As a rule. So what's the necessity of the bears? Of the forest, I'm sorry. So says the Gemara, Dibaisi. And this is to your point. Because the bears are frightened, actually. Bears are a scared species. And they're scared to attack unless they're in their own comfort zone. So therefore, the bears needed a forest to feel comfortable enough to attack. So they could feel at home. That's why you need to have a forest. Which is remarkable, if you think about this. The bears themselves are miraculous. So why not make miraculous bears that don't care for the forest, that don't care?
We're not scared.
And we're not scared, yeah. Which means almost like miracles are done in such a way that we don't invent anything new of nature. We just renegotiate nature to match what we want. In other words, the creation of bears that aren't afraid would be a fundamental change in the structure of nature. The arrival of a forest is not a fundamental structural change in nature. There are forests in the world. There just happens to not be forests here. It's not a fundamental change to the structure of nature, but to alter nature, that there's a new nature of bears. Now, these bears who exist now are going to have children with new nature. Now we're creating a new.
It's like saying making a human now with 3 eyes.
Exactly. So it's not just so let's say a miraculous child is born.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't mean that the child's never going to get sick. It doesn't mean the child's not going to have struggles of every other human child in the world. Just the arrival of the child is a miracle. To use that analogy, right? So there's like this play here where miracles occur, but in such a fashion it doesn't fundamentally structure the nature of nature. And this, since it's by divine providence, you're coming on Purim. You just started Adar. This is kind of the storyline of Purim. That this whole miracle plays out in this very natural sort of fashion. There's a queen, and the queen talks to the king, and the whole story. We all know, which is why Hashem's name doesn't appear in the Megillah, right? It's all quote natural. It's a nice, good Hollywood movie. But this underdog queen who comes to the top and saves her people. It would make a wonderful movie. For surprise, is it one? If it isn't, I'm surprised it isn't. It's not a movie yet. I have no idea. Okay, so that's the Gemara's commentary. That was a very interesting comment on the nature of how Hashem does miracles. Amar Rav Chanina. Rav Chanina comments. So 42 children are mauled by these bears. Says Rav Chanina, Bishvil arboim v'shnayim karbanis. Because of the 42 karbanis, Shehikir Balak Melech Bavel, which Balak, the king of Bavel, the king of Moav, Balak Melech Moav, offered. Hufku, there was attacked, there was mauled, Yisrael from the Jewish people, Arboim, Shnayim, Yuladim, 42 children. So we know the story. Balak is the king who hires the non-Jewish prophet Bilam to curse the people. And he curses them, he attempts to curse them 3 times. And each time Bilam praises them, right? And at each site, Bilam asks Balak to offer how many ones? What's 42 divided by 3? It's 14, right? Because he does 7 of.
That's 14.
It's 14, right? Because he does 7 of calf and 7 of sheep, maybe 2 different kinds of offering, 7 of each. Right? That's I'm quite sure if I remember correct. That's what it is. And totaling 40. Sorry, if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 times, and it's 7 times 2 and 14. You can look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Very easily, anybody can open the Chumash afterwards and find it. It's right there in Parshas Bilam. Parshas Balak, I'm sorry. Anyway, so because Balak offered 42 karbanos, So he offered to Hashem 42 times. So I guess we're not going to call it reward, but bishvil, because of that, the consequence is 42 children died. This begs much more explanation and understanding, but just leaving it as it is and let you ruminate over this over Shabbos, think about what this might mean. There's more commentary coming, but let's just keep this in mind. What do you say?
No, nothing. I'm just.
Yeah? Okay, but Gemara continues to comment and says, Eini, is this the case? Is it the case that the reward, so to speak, or the consequence of Balak's 42 karbanos is the death of 42 children? But said Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rav, another statement, which seems to contradict that which Rabbi Chanina just said. What did Rav say? Rav said as follows. La'olam yasek adam b'Torah. A person should, as a rule, that's what la'olam means, as a rule, literally means forever. The way you translate it is as a rule. As a rule, a person should study Torah or be involved in Torah and mitzvahs. Even though he's doing it for the wrong intention, he's doing it for ulterior motives. Because from within, performing it for the wrong intention, he will eventually come lishma to do it for the right intention. What is the right intention?
Love of God.
So there's love of God. Love and fear of God. Right. So the primary reason is because it's Hashem's Torah, and this is the means by which to connect to Torah. There's two different actually explanations of Chassidus what the word lishma means, for its sake. So lishma literally translates for its sake, which means, what does it mean for its sake? You're learning for the sake of Torah. What do you mean for its sake? So one is for the value that it is. And what's the value that it is? What's the value of Torah as it is? That it's God's Torah. So then studying for its sake, or that this is Hashem's mitzvah. So studying for its sake would mean engaged in Torah and mitzvahs for its value. And its value is that this is God's Torah and God's mitzvahs, which means my intention in learning Torah and performing mitzvahs is that this is the means by which I connect to Hashem. Because that's what its value is, connection to God. And I'm learning it for the sake of connecting to Hashem. So one understanding. A deeper understanding is actually for the value of Torah. Torah itself is elevated when a Jew studies it. So what's the purpose of Torah? What's the purpose of Torah? Because Hashem wants to connect to the Jew, which means Torah's purpose is fulfilled when a Jew studies it. So for its sake, for Torah's sake, I learn Torah.
It's already elevated.
It's elevated. A Jew is higher than Torah. And as a Jew studies Torah, it elevates Torah. How do we know the Jew is higher than Torah? The Medrash says this. That's the law, right? You break Torah to save a Jew.
Right.
But here the Medrash discusses this, how we know Torah is higher that the Jew is higher than Torah. Medrash discusses a bunch of things that were created, that were made before creation. And Torah and the Jew are on the list of things that were made before creation. 2,000 years. Yeah, this Medrash doesn't give it, I don't think this Medrash gives a number. But elsewhere it says, the Torah is 2,000 years before creation. Now, before creation doesn't mean necessarily in time, because there is no time before creation, but it means in level. The level of these things are beyond the level of creation. So whatever energy is required from Hashem to create, there's an energy beyond that that's for Torah, and there's an energy beyond that for the Jew. So how does the Medrash know? So the Medrash says, I don't know which one's first, Torah or the Jew. I don't know which one's higher. Says the Medrash, open Torah. Torah says, command the Jew, talk to the Jew, tell the Jew, which means that the Torah presupposes the existence of the Jew, indicating that first comes Hashem's desire for the Jew, and then there's a Torah by the means for Hashem to connect to the Jew. Which means ultimately Hashem's real deepest desire is the connection to the Jew. Now, in order to achieve that, we have Torah and mitzvahs. Exactly. And therefore, study of Torah for the sake of Torah is in some way for the sake of Torah itself. Torah itself gets elevated when I learn Torah. Torah itself gets elevated in that the purpose of Torah is then fulfilled when I study and connect to Hashem through Torah. And same with mitzvahs. Anyway, this is a side tangent. So Rav says that a person should study Torah even for the incorrect reason, because eventually he'll come to the right reason. I once saw a Chassidus Taich, I think the Rebbe quotes this Taich, this reading. The word here is which we translate as from doing it for the wrong reason will get to doing it for the right reason, right?
Well,
But the word to say, sorry,
no, go ahead.
what are you going to say?
I'm just. I think it's Rabbi Akiva who studied Torah because he wanted to marry a woman, and then he became one of the.
That's
rabbis.
right.
So he also did it for
For the
reason,
ulterior motives, that's right. So Chassidut touches a word like, Rebbe points out the following language. It doesn't say that at the beginning it's going to be for the wrong reason and eventually it'll come to the right reason.
It's ulterior.
It says shemitoich. What does mitoich mean? From within. From within the wrong reason will come the right reason. What does that mean from within? So explains the Rebbe that deep down every single Jew wants to do it for the right reason. Because every Jew has a neshama. And every Jew has a neshama that's purely connected to Hashem and has the right intentions and everything. But it's buried deep down under externalities of my ideas of wrong reasons. And if I dig deep enough, I'll find that mitoich on the inside of all my ulterior motives is really lishma, the right reason. So it's not only that eventually I'll come to do it for the right reason, but if I look inward enough and peel back the layers of all the silliness that I get attracted to, I'll find that deep down I have the right intention there. Deep down I have a neshama that wants to learn Torah for the right reason.
It could be also like the same, like you said, the same reason, just a different perspective. For example, people want to become more religious or whatever for more parnasa to make money.
Yeah.
But after you become more religious or whatever, then it's to make money to help synagogues.
Oh,
to help
so the
Jews,
inside
to do
of the
mitzvah.
wrong, that's right.
Yeah.
So the inside of the ulterior motive itself is positive.
Yeah.
On the inside, which leads to an interesting idea. That this is something which, on the face of it, is rather shocking. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes, it's in chapter 40, 39 or 40, and there he writes that when a person learns Torah for the wrong reasons, he gives a bunch of different reasons actually for the study of Torah and doing mitzvahs, different levels of motivation, and then said, and he explains each motivation as to which spiritual level it corresponds to, the world of Yitzira, the world of Bria, the world of Atzilus, what level of motivation, and then says that if a person's motivation is because he wants to become a scholar, he wants to be, so the arrogance is actually motivating him to learn. I want to be a scholar. I want to prove everybody how great I am. I want to prove that guy wrong. Something of that nature. So there's an arrogant, there's a klipa.
The ego.
There's an ego, and ego is klipa. Ego is the opposite of holiness. So there's an overlay of holiness that traps his Torah. Because it's holding on to his Torah. And if the Alter Rebbe concludes that the person has to do teshuvah for his Torah learning. What is he doing teshuvah for his Torah learning? To break that shell. Because beneath that shell, on the inside, there really is a beautiful neshama that wants to serve Hashem for the right reason. But his godly soul that wants to serve Hashem for the right reason is stuck in a body and an animal soul that's selfish. So he has to do teshuvah to crack through that selfishness, to allow for the neshama inside to express itself that it's really for Hashem. And in this way, the Torah he learned with the wrong intention, by extracting the right intention out of it, gets elevated to its proper state. So it's mitoich shalei lishma. On the inside of the negativity is really lishma, is really the right thing. Because the negativity is only an external factor. It's only the animal soul that gets in the way and gives us all the selfishness. But deep on the inside, every Jew mitoich, on the inside, there's the lishma. Now here's the remarkable thing. Where does Rav, why is this statement being stated here? And where does Rav derive this idea that even if a person studies for the wrong reason, eventually he'll come to the right reason, or deep inside there is the right reason? Listen to this. Because in reward for the 42 karbanas, offerings, that Balak, king of Moav, offered, so what was his intention? Negative. His intention was negative. He was going to do it to destroy the Jewish people. He's trying to entice Hashem to destroy the Jewish people. But on the inside, there is positive. And therefore, eventually a positive comes out. And therefore, Zacha, he merited, the Yatzah Mimenu, that was born from him, Rus, Sheyatzah Mimenu, Shleima. Rus, from whom was born eventually Shleima. Rus is a descendant of Moav, of Balak. Sorry? Oh, so why Shlomo? Let's see. Shenemar Shakasa boy, of which it says about Shlomo. The pasuk says, it's in Kings 1, chapter 3, verse 4. I'm looking on the side. I don't know the whole thing by heart. It says there, Elef, and here's Elef Oilos Yala Shlomo. 1,000 offerings Shlomo offered on that Mizbeach that was built at that time, whatever the context here is of that verse. So because he did 42 for the wrong reason, eventually came out 1,000 for the right reason. And this is the Gemara's proof. This is Rav's proof that when a person has the wrong intention, eventually will come the right intention. No matter how bad we think a Jew's intentions are, they're not as bad as Balak. And if the Gemara still says, even like Balak, the wrong intention eventually comes to the right intention, then certainly this is true for every Jew. And if it's not in his lifetime, it's in his descendants' lifetime. I saw a close friend of mine showed me a letter that the Rebbe wrote to his grandfather in response to a letter that his grandfather wrote. His grandfather wrote a letter for his birthday to the Rebbe, in honor of his own birthday, and he's like opening up to the Rebbe about how he feels about his own journey. This man was a very serious man who spent hours every day davening. Literally, he would pray in deep meditation every day for hours. And he writes to the Rebbe that I feel like nothing changed. I'm doing all this praying, meditation, and internal work, and I feel like I'm the same guy I was. Nothing changed. And Rebbe writes back to him what he's talking about. I know you, and I've seen you change from one end to the other end, from one extreme to another. And then the Rebbe tells him that no matter what, that every good intention, especially with something like deep meditation and contemplation within one's prayer, has its effect, whether in this lifetime, whether in this life or another life, whether in this life or another life within your own life, it'll have its effect. Meaning the person goes through a different stage in life and he's not in the same place, but the things he worked on at a younger point or a different point stand for him now in this level in his life. So good investments never go to waste. They always perform, even if there's all kinds of exterior motives at the beginning. So you have a person like Balak, who's offering kabbanas for the sake of literally destroying the Jewish people. And here says Rav, even this, because there was a good activity here, eventually good comes out of it. Shlomo HaMelech, generations later, offer 1,000 kabbanas. And therefore every Jew, even if he's going to be learning for the wrong intention, worse would be for him to say, oh, my intentions are wrong, therefore I'm not going to learn. Therefore I'm not going to do mitzvahs. That's even worse. That's the biggest Yetzer Hara. Now the Yetzer Hara got you doubly. First, he made you have bad intention. That was one level. And then he made you stop because you had bad intention, which is like a double arrogance, thinking that your bad intentions are so valuable that it's worth giving up on mitzvahs because of your stupid bad intention. That's a doubly worse. Go ahead, do what you do. If it's good, go ahead and do it. You have the wrong intention, do it if it's a good thing. And eventually the good will come out. And if it's true of Balak, it's certainly true of every Jew.
Except for the 42 kids.
Oh, so this is why the Gemara brings this up. So the Gemara says, here's the contrast, you're right. This is why the Gemara brings it up. The Gemara brings this up because you are saying that the reason why the 42 kids were died is because of the 42 kabbanas. That's not true. The 42 kabbanas did not lead to negative, it led to positive. The Gemara is raising this as a challenge. You said that the 42 kabbanas led to the negative of 42 children being killed. We have here a statement that says it led to the positive. What do you mean that it led to negative? Okay, so before the Gemara gets there, the answer, the Gemara first. Oh, so the Gemara answers. First the Gemara tells us how we get from Rus to
Shlomo.
Rus to Shlomo we know, because Rus is David's father, who's Shlomo's father. Rus is David's mother, who's Shlomo's father. But how we get from Rus to Balak? It says as follows: Amar Rabbi Bar Chani, Yosi son of Chani says, Rus Bito Shel Egloin. Rus is the daughter of a man named Egloin. Bnei Shel Balak, who is the son of Balak. So the Gemara answers, you're right, that he did a positive action. And because he did a positive action, it led to eventually the great positive of Shlomo Melech's 1,000 karbanos. But nonetheless, his negative intention also has a negative effect. Namely, as the Gemara says, but Taivasai, Eglon was a son of Balak. Tavasai, but his desire, Miha, at the end of the day was Laklala Hava. It was for cursing. So even though he did a good activity here, he brought 42 karbanos, and good activities never go to waste, and therefore generations later, Shlomo Melech offers 1,000 karbanos, but at the end of the day, his desire was for curse. And because his desire is for curse, that also has its effect.
It's almost like the Igla roof. There's a little bit of clip that you have to get rid of.
And I think that's a good point. Exactly right.
It's the part that you have to give to the negative side.
That's right. And his negativity was accomplished by the 42 children.
That's the part you have to give away.
That's right. So it's not as if, the point that I think the Gemara is trying to say is, it's not as if Rav is telling you, okay, because eventually it's going to come out good, therefore go ahead and have your bad intentions and expect no negative consequence.
Right.
There's going to be a negative consequence to the bad intentions too. Back to the point from Tanya, and we have to do teshuvah for that. If my Torah study is an overlay of arrogant klippa, that's got to be dealt with. It doesn't mean you stop learning, because eventually good's going to come out. But understand that negative intentions have negative consequences as well, even if there's positivity. Right? Which kind of gives us a view of life, including and especially Torah and mitzvahs, that it's not as if the world is just black and white, where either this is good or either this is bad. There are layers and layers and layers to everything. Because we are multi-layered people.
And
overlaps of positive and negative. To paint the whole thing as bad or the whole thing as good is not a human.
Gray zone.
It's not a human experience. That's an angelic experience. Angels are either good or bad, but we're humans, and humans are made of earth with a godly soul invested, right? That's the way man is created. Everything else is created in one shot. God says, let there be an animal, and the animal is a living creature. When it comes to humans, first we design an animal, human from the earth, and then we blow into his nostrils a soul. Because he's a complex person. He's a complex creature. He's made of the earth, but has a soul of the heavens. And that's how we are. We're multi-layered. The same human who can have the most selfish and arrogant intentions, dig deep and you find purity. And the same thing with the reverse. You find someone who looks like a beautiful person, and you sniff around a little bit, you're going to find negative. Because that's how humans are. I once heard a vart, and I'll conclude with this, a beautiful, beautiful teaching. I heard this from a chassid. His name is, I can picture his face. His name is Feldman. His first name was, I don't remember his name. I can see his face. Anyway, he lived in Kfar Chabad. Shalom Feldman. He lived in Kfar Chabad. He's an older, venerable chassid. I think he passed away since then. I was in yeshiva in Kfar Chabad, but he didn't work in the yeshiva. He was like a Hasidic leader in the community. So he would lead gatherings, bring shir Torah, inspiration on Shabbos afternoon in one of the shuls down the block from the yeshiva. So every now and again, I would go listen to him. Older, venerable chassid, go listen to him. Had a conversation or two with him once or twice. Anyways, I once heard him say the following teaching. He was partially quoting the fourth Chabad Rebbe, and partially he was adding his own commentary. I'm not sure which part is from the fourth Rebbe and which part is his commentary, so I'll just tell you the whole teaching. The teaching is like this. Ever since Adam, the first man, ate from the tree of knowledge, and ever since then, good and bad has been mixed together. There's no such thing as finding a person who's 100% good or finding a person who's 100% bad. There's no such thing. So that was the whole point of the tree of knowledge. He ate from the tree of knowledge. Now, Taivarat, the tree of knowledge, good and bad. It's not that good and bad didn't exist before the tree of knowledge. There was the good and bad before, but the good and bad were clearly demarked. Here's good, here's bad. But once he ate from the tree of knowledge, now there's the mixture. of mix of good and bad. And ever since then, you find a person who looks wonderfully good. There's a little negative. You find someone who looks horribly negative. There's a little good. And then he went on to say, sometimes the little bit of good that bad guy has is exactly what that good guy is missing. So here's a good guy. He's got one little bit of negative. And that little negative is precisely the area where that bad guy is good at. And then he said, moreover, you want to know why the good guy can't stand the bad guy? Not because of all the bad he has. Because he looks at that. Because he looks at that bad guy and sees the little thing he's missing, that guy has. And that's what makes the good guy nervous about it. So it's a funny teaching, but it's a truth. Yeah. When you're on your high horse and you look at someone who is not as good as you and he's making you nervous, question yourself, what's making you nervous here? Because he's so negative, that's what's bothering you? Or because you look at him and you find some positive that you're missing. And if that's the case, learn from him, don't despise him. Right? So I'm just sharing this because we're learning here from the Gemara that things are multi-layered and complex. Even a guy like Balak, there's a kernel of good which comes out when Shlomo Melech is offering 1,000 karbanos. The same thing with every Jew. So we have bad intentions in our learning. It's not the right intentions. So therefore we stop because it's bad intentions. Says Rav, no, continue going. Keep on learning. Dig deep down, you'll find the good intention. Does that mean you ignore all the negativity? No, you got to deal with that also, because negativity has negative consequences too. The same Balak with the same actions who led to 1,000 karbanos from Shlomo also led to 42 children dying. So everything is multi-layered, and all the layers have to be contended with.
Goes unused.
Everything has its effect and everything has its consequence. And it's all meshed into one activity, one set of karbanos. Has 42 children dying and 1,000 karbanos Shlomo Melech. Because that's how we are as humans. Complex, multi-layered creatures with all kinds of positive and negativity. We have to go through it and say, where's the negative that we want to cut out and where's the positive that we want to encourage? Which, to your point, is just Legla Rufa.
Right.
Legla Rufa, the idea of Legla Rufa is to identify that which is negative and say, you belong here, stay away. So we have to be honest enough to be able to identify where the negative within is and cut it out as necessary. Okay, you have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos. Sunday, Bezat Hashem, 9:15 Shachris downstairs and 10 o'clock is the bris. We don't officially invite to a bris. And the reason why we don't officially invite to a bris is because Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, Elisha, the one who we're learning about, Elisha's Rebbe, Elisha's predecessors, Eliyahu Hanavi. And Eliyahu Hanavi comes to every bris. And if you invite someone to an event that Eliyahu Hanavi is going to be at, and the guy turns down the invitation,
Wow.
It's not a very good thing. So we refrain from inviting, and therefore we only announce. So we announce that the bris is going to be, God willing, 10 o'clock in the morning here after Shachris. So
I'm just going to announce that.
the announce is all here.
Unfortunately, I can't make it. I'm taking my wife to the airport with
Enjoy.
2 kids at the same time.
Appreciate it.
Just want to draw them for the day.
That's very nice. Okay, wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.